Hello, everyone. My name is Billy Joe Creamer. I am the admin for the Stress Mess. It's an adrenal thing page. I'm going to do an introduction here. I'm not sure if it's going to be spliced together or it's going to be long or short. Essentially, I'm starting this page because there's a lot of people, predominantly women, who have undiagnosed conditions, and they either experience a lot of fatigue or a lot of I don't want to say depression because it's not really depression, but it's misconstrued as depression. It could possibly be depression, but you don't know why. Pain in your body, inability to lose weight, or no appetite, too much appetite, just a whole bunch of things that if you've gone to the doctor and they can't really tell you what's wrong with you, chances are you have a good amount of adrenal fatigue. And the reason why I say that it's a good chance is because most doctors don't study it. They don't learn about it. A lot of them don't even want to believe in it because there's no money in it. Doctors can't really do anything to help you. The best that they can do is tell you to, reduce stress in your life and, eat better and get plenty of rest and, take time out for you. And that all sounds really good. But the reason why you're in the position that you're in is because it's almost impossible to do all those things. And once your adrenal gland has gotten to a point of exhaustion, it's even harder for you to recover because your body starts to get into this point where it's always fight or flight. So, for me personally, I'm going to try and share my journey thus far. It's been maybe 5 years now since I've been diagnosed, and but I want to be a voice for people and an educator for people. I am not certified by anything. This is just the stuff that I've learned from trying to fix myself. I know my body. I knew there was something wrong with me. I knew I wasn't depressed. I just felt like I wasn't thriving. Okay, so I knew that there was something wrong with me, but that I wasn't necessarily sick. Because everybody said there was, there's nothing wrong with this, there's nothing wrong, all the typical things they usually check, but yet I couldn't lose weight. I would sleep for hours and hours and hours and hours, and just never felt rested. Just something with my eyes. Okay, so I'm in my 40s. I'm actually 47 right now, but at the time I was 42 when I found out. But two of the things that stood out to me, being my age and knowing that I don't eat poorly, actually, I do kind of eat poorly because I don't eat enough. I'll not have an appetite all day and then completely binge at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then feel like trash. But I don't overeat. I don't eat fried foods. I don't eat bad that way. I don't eat a lot of junk food. And I've never, ever had a hard time losing weight. And every time I tried to diet, I would just gain weight faster. And without taking medicine or anything like that. So I got a little sunburn, so I look a little freaky today, but whatever. I actually have the energy to do it, so we're just going to go with it. The second thing that I noticed about myself is that there's actually 3 things now I'm thinking about it, but the second major thing is that a lot of times during the day I can see perfectly clear. And then all of a sudden everything just goes so fuzzy, and I'm like, I can't focus on anything. And I went and took an eye test just, I don't know, just out of the blue. And they make you cover one eye. And I could literally feel my vision. I could see my eyes trying to focus in and out. And they just couldn't, get there. So I was like, what the heck is wrong? I knew something was wrong. But nobody could tell me. So I had kind of gotten to rock bottom. Now, I'm going to try and tell you in the the most discreet way that I can to protect the people that I love. But some of it's going to be out there because I think people need to know it. And, you know, I'm a very open person, but the rest of my family is very private. And so, you know, but some of it just needs to be said and they're just going to have to deal with it. So, but I'm going to try and be as nice as possible. So my story goes back to 2008, 2009, when the economy crashed. My husband lost his job. It was a 6-figure job. We had a very expensive house. We had maybe $42,000 that we had, that we could have, you know, gotten our hands on to kind of make it through. But, excuse me, he lost his job, and it was, I mean, looking back, everybody knows it was not just like, oh, you're out of work for 2 weeks and, you know, the economy was so great. We were going downhill fast. And at that time, we had already had our house on the market because he does recruiting, and his commissions started going down. And I could always tell if his commissions started going down that there's usually a recession coming, okay, because he's a tech recruiter. Oops. And in technical, tech is always the first thing to come back and the last thing to go. So when technical people stop being hired, you're usually entering into a recession. Who knew it would be quite as bad as it actually was? So, you know, we're dealing with going from 6 figures to no figures to, you know, from $125,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 to $42,000. Now, this is more layoffs in a matter of months. And then to finally $55,000. And it just wasn't enough to cover the bills that we had at the time. And so, you know, we wound up thinking we were going to have to short sell and all these things. And I had I have 3 boys. And they were in their young to mid-teens at the time. And so a whole year is going by, and we're struggling financially really, really bad. You know, we thought we were going to sell our house. Right before Christmas, we thought we'd be out in 2010, December 2010. And the people lied about having a house to sell. So as we got closer to closing, they hadn't sold their house, and so they backed out. And then at that time, the TARP or HARP program came out. We were able to modify our loan and stay in our house, which was good, but it took a long time. It took a year to get to that point. Just after that, my husband was, he was going to go to the doctor to get a medicine for his nails. He had a little fungus in his nails, and he had been on it before, and he went to go and get the medicine again, and they run routine blood tests, you know, because it could be harsh on your liver. So he went, and they told him, well, you know, your enzymes are just a little bit high, but you've been on it before, no big deal. We'll check you in 8 weeks. Come back in 8 weeks. Well, when he went back in 8 weeks, they ran a hepatitis panel at the same time. Didn't tell him, they just ran it, and it came back positive. He was hepatitis B positive, and we were like, how does that happen? And, you know, he works from home, I work from home. He's home all the time. We're never without each other. He doesn't do drugs. He hates needles. And we were just like, how do you get hepatitis B? He doesn't have tattoos. And so he's like, you got to run it again. There's no way that I have it. And he ran it again, and he had hepatitis B. So the only thing they could quite figure, and of course everybody just wants to accuse you of being, you know, a cheater, and what about your wife? She cheats, stuff like that. And it was kind of humiliating to kind of go through that, where yeah, nobody believes that you've been faithful to your spouse, but I mean, he'd have to be pretty damn good to get it done, because he worked from home. So they kind of traced it back to when he was 18. He got his ear pierced, and a family member also got the same illness, but nobody said anything. So we didn't even know that this family member had it, but they both went together to get their ear pierced at the same time, except the family member got sick right away. My husband didn't. And so the stress of losing his job 4 times in such a short amount of time, taking such a deep pay cut, you know, almost losing our house, having young kids. They say a lot of stress can trigger a dormant virus. And so that's what we're suspecting happened. But in any event, I thought I was going to be a widow at 40. You know, hepatitis B hasn't been curable yet. There's I would say it's the less common one, or I don't know, because it's been 9 years since he was diagnosed, so I'm not sure how far they've come, but I know at the time it was like nobody's been cured of Hep B yet. So they had to put him on a medication that is very, very, very harsh. It's an interferon to kill the virus, and he went through a lot of the side effects that are on the that come with the interferon that he was on. Not all interferons are as harsh as the one that he was on, but he was on one that was pretty harsh. It was Pegasus. And I'm going to do my best not to get upset, but it's still a bit emotional for me. So, you know, he went through the flu, he went through losing a lot of weight, he went through his skin hurting, he couldn't go out in the sun, he was real irritable, he suffered with depression, he had a lot of other physical things that men deal with, and it was really difficult. I kind of had to raise 3 teenage boys on my own and still deal with, you know, money problems and try to find a way to do work to make extra money to help, you know, pay the bills. And he was on that for about 2 years or so. And okay, I'm going to see how much I want to say on here. One of the side effects that happens, it's rare, but it's actually not as rare as you might think once you start researching it. It's not something they tell you as they're giving you the prescription, but I think people need to be aware of, you know, the potential side effects, because it was real for me. It was real for my husband. So one of the side effects is that it can affect a part of your brain that will inhibit your ability to tell the difference between fantasy and reality. And he got that one. We both are Christian. We both love the Lord very much. He's always been, we're high school sweethearts. He's always been my best friend. But there was a change that happened in him, and I knew something was wrong. He had like a sudden personality change. And he just became like this massive ego. And he told me one night that he audibly heard the voice of God tell him to run for president when, like back when Donald Trump and all these were starting to come and run for president. And I was devastated, because I was like, no, you didn't hear the audible voice of God. And especially, because I don't want to humiliate him, but especially with the way that he told me, you know, like with the comic book voice and all that, I knew that God didn't tell him that, because the way that he told me is the exact way that would not be the way for me to be confirmed that it's something from God. So in other words, if somebody comes up to me and says, God told me to tell you, everybody who knows me knows that that is like, boop, get away from me. Because God can tell me himself. I got the Holy Spirit. God can speak to me and tell me if there's something he wants me to do. So I know for me, if you come at me that way, that it's not from God, because God knows that's not how I'm going to receive it. So he told me, God told me to tell you, you know, I said so, and in this voice. And I was so kind of mortified. And then, you know, we fought a lot, because he was just so sure that he was going to be president. And I'm like, how can you be president when you can't even take criticism from me? You're losing your house. I mean, he was spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours researching agriculture, nuclear armament, you know, all these things that he has zero experience in, and just obsessing over it. And I'm like, you need to do your job, because that's all we have. And, you know, it was just this battle between he and I to stay focused and to get better, and it just didn't. And a lot happened in the next 2 years. A lot happened. Our house that was on the market for 7 years finally sold. And let me just say, right before we left that house, I knew there was something wrong with me. I had been dealing with all of this stuff for the last three and a half years, and I just was getting heavier, and anything that I tried to do just made it worse. The eye thing. The third thing that I noticed about myself is I have had, I mean, if I ever get better one day, maybe I'll get it back again, but I kind of almost have an eidetic memory, which is a photographic memory. And I just found myself, I couldn't concentrate anymore. I couldn't remember things properly. Like for me, I know myself. I know what I should be able to do, and I just couldn't. I couldn't get it. So I had gone to a doctor, and of course, you know, you're depressed, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm depressed. And then I went to a different doctor. I changed doctors because of insurance or whatever, and this doctor's a Christian doctor. Excuse me. I'm like getting a little burpy because I'm emotional. I'm trying not to be, so I could feel myself holding my breath. But anyway, so I went to her, and we had been going to her for a couple months. She knew my husband's diagnosis and all this stuff, but I went to her by myself, and I had told her I feel like I'm dying. I just feel like my body's not making energy. I don't feel like I'm thriving. And she goes through the whole psychological thing, and I just said, you know, I don't want to die, but I just feel like my body is dying. Like it just can't do it anymore. So she says to me, I don't think you have depression. I think you have adrenal fatigue. And I was like, okay, what's that, and what can you do for it? So she started to explain to me that, you know, your stress hormone, when you're so stressed out and just there's never a reprieve from it, your adrenal gland just basically just says, F it, I ain't got no more to give you. It's like an empty gas tank. You can't just keep running a tank on 2 drops of fuel all the time, and it just basically, your car won't start no more. So she said there's an easy way to find out if you have adrenal fatigue. I really think that's your problem, especially because of the eye thing. When I told her how my eyes felt, that was kind of the thing that was the flag for her. So anyway, she said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn out the lights, and I'm going to shine a little pen light in your eyes. And people who are healthy and have enough cortisol, you know, when a light is shined into your eyes, your pupil will constrict and it'll stay there to protect your eye. But people with adrenal fatigue, she says, normally after 7-8 seconds, your pupil starts to pulse and dilate because you don't have the cortisol to keep them shut. So she goes, I'll be able to tell if you're having a problem with that. Well, she didn't, and I lasted 1 second. Like literally, close, open. It wouldn't even stay, they wouldn't even stay closed for more than 1 second. And she was like, yeah, you've got adrenal fatigue really bad. So I said, okay, well, what do we do? How do you fix it? She goes, well, you know, the whole thing, and you have to get rid of stress, exercise, which is almost impossible because you get something called exercise intolerance. And, you know, you have to do things. You have to take time out for yourself, and you have to do those things. And I'm like, it's going to be impossible. I'm pretty much going to die then, because there's no way for me to do any of that. I'd have to leave my whole entire family and go live on a beach in Belize somewhere for me to get away from all of the things that I had to deal with. And so I kind of felt a little hopeless, but she was like, it's okay, you just have to find ways to do it. But she told me to take these specific vitamins. They were $150 a month. They tasted like poo. are horrible, like root and liver mixed together or something. They were disgusting. But she said, you should feel better in 7 days. If you don't, we'll try something else. So I spent the $150. I waited 10 days. I did not feel any different. Then she tried antidepressants that they use for chronic fatigue. And that did nothing for me, just make me even more tired, and gain more weight. So I went off of that, and I just felt, I kind of really felt hopeless. I felt that there's no hope for me. My situation's not getting better on this side. You know, there's nothing you can just give me to make me feel better. And so I just felt like, damn, this is how I'm going to go out. Stress is literally going to kill me. And just maybe 3 months after that, my oldest son was getting married, and horrible events happened around that time, around the whole wedding, around the whole thing. It was just a horrible, horrible, horrible time. I have pictures of me with my eyes swollen out, just so bad from crying that, it was rock bottom for me. So it was around my birthday, and you know, my birthday was horrible, and Mother's Day and birthday were like the same weekend. So it was just a horrible time. And then after my son, that week, my son got married, and I went and treated myself to lip injections. And while I was there, the doctor that I went to see, awesome doctor, his name is Dr. Murray. He's in Orlando. No, he's not paying me to say this, but I think he saved my life, and he doesn't even really know it yet. I went to him, but he does hormone therapy. So I know I'm saying a lot because I'm trying to figure out, this isn't like pre-scripted, and I'm trying to figure out how to tell you what I need to tell you, not make it too long because it's a lot, but give you enough information to kind of, to know where I'm coming from. So anyway, I saw Dr. Murray, and after he plumped up my lips and made them all pretty for me, I had seen him before. He asked me how I was doing, and I had told him I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. And he goes, well, how do you know? And I told him about the eye thing. And he said, did she do blood work on you? And I said, no, but she knows that I got it and it's pretty bad. And he said, well, I've never heard of that, but, you know, would you allow me to do blood work on you? I have a whole other aspect of my business is hormone therapy. So I'm like, yeah, go for it, because nothing she did was able to help me. So he did about $2,000 worth of tests. Thank God my insurance covered it. And when I went back to see him, he looked at my results and he said, my dear, you're barely alive. And I was like, I know, right? Like, I know. And I was like, but how can you tell? What are you seeing there that shows you that I'm dying? Like, what is it? And he said, your DHEA levels are, you know, the bare minimum for organ function. It's why my digestion is slow. My metabolism is like cut off. It's like my body's using the little bit of the hormones that come out of the adrenal gland for just stasis, like not even stasis, but like just breathing, you know, looking around, you know, the very basic of life without being a vegetable, I guess you can say. My HGH level came back. I had the metabolism of an 80-year-old woman. So that was nice. And just there's a whole battery of tests that I'll do in a different video, because you guys need to know these things. So if you don't have a specialist in your area, you can go and specifically recommend these particular tests from your doctor and find out if this is what's ailing you, because you need to know if you have problems and you're undiagnosed. Sometimes fibromyalgia can be nothing more than adrenal fatigue, and you're not being treated properly. You just don't know it. Chronic fatigue is probably adrenal fatigue. You just don't know it. There's no money in it. Unless you're the lab that does the blood work, there's no money in adrenal fatigue. Or if you're the, you know, the doctor, the specialist doing, you know, selling his own products. Now, mind you, my goal is to label my own supplements, but to make it affordable, because to make it affordable and all in one place, because, you know, everywhere you go, they want you to buy this one, buy that one, buy this one, buy that one. There's 30 of these, 90 of those, this, and that. So eventually I want to I want to have my adrenal line to be so that people who suffer don't have to source this stuff, and you're not paying $1 million on. If I showed you I'll show you in a different video the supplements that I take now and where I have to go to find them to get them at the least expensive but the best quality, because it's not like, you know, I'm not a millionaire. So I will be trying to have my own supplement line, but really it's not to like become wealthy off it. It's really just to kind of, you know, maybe make some money off it, but not to bend people over. I suffer from it, and I know how it feels. So that being said, he told me I needed to take HGH shots, which I had to give myself a shot in the tummy every day. And the medicine is not covered by insurance. It's $300 a month, but my count was so bad, I actually got approved from the manufacturer for them to pay for it for me. So I only had to pay $25 a month. That's how bad my numbers were. Like, I was in the same boat as the poor kids who, you know, have dwarfism and stuff like that, who don't have enough HGH to grow into a, you know, a normal height or whatever. This is the kind of stuff we're dealing with, that HGH. So mine was so dangerously low, they actually paid for it. Let's see what else. Oh, I had to have DHEA compounded in olive oil to help give my body the parent steroid that wasn't available in my body, so that I could slowly start to heal a little bit. And so I did that for a year, and my counts had come up about halfway, and then he stopped taking insurance. So I couldn't go back and get another prescription. It was very expensive. I don't know why he stopped taking insurance, but I do another business and I'm looking at it right now, so just pardon me while I'm looking away. So I had to kind of take matters into my own hands and learn how to find this stuff for myself. And over the past five years since I've been diagnosed, I've done a lot of research. I've done a lot of experimenting with different supplements that work, that are garbage, that don't work. I actually compound my own DHEA now, so I don't need a prescription for it anymore. And I've found other supplements that I can take that help boost my HGH or supplement the... they don't supplement HGH, but they give your body the minerals that it needs to kind of start putting it out again. And I have like pages and pages of different supplements that most people with adrenal fatigue are going to require, and then some of us won't need as much and some of us will need more. I'm the one with the big ass drawer full of supplements. So my problem has not gone away yet. My kids are grown, but they're still my kids. And as of right now, I'm married, if that's what you want to call it. I don't think what we have is a marriage anymore, but I'm still here, basically because I can't support myself. And so, yeah, I don't want to cry, but things are just not the same. He's off his medicine, that one medication, but unless you acknowledge that you have a problem, your brain won't make new pathways. So until he can admit that he needs help, I'm kind of stuck with what I have, and I don't like it. So he went from wanting to be president to, you know, wanting to be to doing this or that, and he just kind of went through his, you know, midlife crisis where he, you know, he looks very young. People think he's my son, you know, and that feels fantastic. And you know, his ego is just blown way up, and you know, he's always got the muscle shirts on now with the superhero things, and you know, running around chit-chatting with people he shouldn't be chit-chatting with, and won't admit to any of it. And he says things about me to my children and to his parents that I never thought that the man I married would say. So I don't even look at him anymore like he's my husband. He's somebody different. He's not the person I married. At 49 years old, he wants to be a professional boxer. He's never stepped foot in a boxing ring. He's never gotten punched, but I sometimes would like to be the one to do that. You know, and he's got hepatitis, so, you know, he can't get a boxing license, but, you know, he's got this whole extra, he's got this alter ego. You know, he wants to be seen with his pants hanging down and doing pull-ups and stuff, and, you know, he got the hoodie on and the boxing gloves running around my house like this, and I don't even know. I just don't even know what to say. But at 47, I can't handle that anymore. Like, I, you know, begged him for counseling. We did that. That was horrible. And had trouble with my blood pressure. Probably they wanted to put me on blood pressure medication, but I told them there's no way I'm doing that. There's nothing wrong with me. And I don't want that on my health record. So I've had to learn to try and manage my blood pressure on my own, which is just not an easy thing to do when you don't have the hormones. So it's a very long video. Right now it's at 31, 32 minutes. I'll see if I can edit it out, but I just feel like I don't know what to cut out. So whether you watch till the end or you don't, you know, I'm here to try and be, to try and cut out 6 years for you. And 5 years. For me, it has taken 5 years to kind of get to the point where I know my supplements are finally working. The things that I've found finally are working, and I've gone back for, you know, different blood tests to make sure that it, you know, is my blood, is this particular lab getting better? If not, I have to try and find something else to do to make that particular aspect of my blood work better. Then I'll go back and have this checked, and, you know, is that getting better? And then I'll have to tweak my supplements to make sure that's working. You know, there may not be one particular formulary that I put together. You may have to add to it depending on your level of fatigue and your blood labs that you get. But I want to do as much as I can to help educate you, make things easier for you. Hopefully the suffering that I've gone through is not in vain, that I could use it to help other people, because it's that hashtag undiagnosed. I think I'm going to start that hashtag, because even doctors are like, you got what?